Welcome. Before you can learn all about how the planets move across the sky, it's really important to understand how the sun moves across the sky. So that's exactly what we're going to talk about in this video. The other key concept is how we use the sun to tell the time. We start with the observer. Since this is a stargazing course, I'm going to explain everything from the perspective of someone standing on the ground. This guy here is our observer, and he's standing on the horizon. The observer can only see objects that are above the horizon. If an object dips below the horizon, then it cannot be seen. This line here is the path the sun travels across the sky. I will sometimes refer to this line as the ecliptic. From our perspective, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. You'll notice that the east and west here are backwards from normal maps. That's because the sun travels in a southerly arc across the sky. This means that the observer has to face south to look at the sun. When the sun reaches its highest point in the sky, we have a special name for that. We call it noon. At this point, the sun is perfectly south. The sun will continue moving, but will now get lower in the sky until it finally sets on the horizon in the west. Later on, it'll rise again in the east and we'll have a new day. We call it daytime when the sun is above the horizon, and we call it nighttime when the sun is below the horizon. We can also divide this path into AM and PM. AM comes from the Latin phrase ante meridiem, and it simply means before noon. PM comes from the Latin phrase post meridiem and means afternoon. It takes 24 hours for the sun to go from noon to noon. When the sun is at noon, or 12 p.m., it's here. 12 hours later, it'll be in the 12 a.m. position, which we also call midnight. Normal clocks only have 12 hours on them, but the hands spin around twice. On my special sun clock, I have 24 hours. So we can use this to not only tell the time, but to describe where things are. So if I say the sun is at 10 a.m., it means that it is here. 3 hours later, the sun will be at 1 p.m. If the sun is at 3 a.m., it's over here. But I can also use this to say something like, when the sun is at 8 p.m., you will be able to see something at the 7 a.m. position. In that case, it'll look like this. When I describe something as being in the noon position at midnight, it means that we have a setup like this, with an object at noon and the sun at midnight. I can also say that something is 2 hours behind the sun. So wherever the sun is, that object would be 2 hours behind it. Since the sun is going clockwise, I can also say some things are in front of it. One last thing. To keep it simple during the course, I'm going to assume that there's always 12 hours of daytime and 12 hours of nighttime. Obviously, this isn't the case in real life, as days are shorter in the winter, so it might look like this, and much longer in the summer, so it might look like that. But since you're just learning the basics, we'll keep it simple for now. So that was our intro to the sun. 3 key things to remember are that it takes the sun 24 hours to complete one cycle. The path that the sun moves on is called the ecliptic. And lastly, the position of the sun in the sky tells us the time. In the next video, we'll talk about how the stars move across the sky. And with your knowledge of sun and stars, then you'll be ready to learn about the planets. I'll see you there.